Hello, everybody. Thursday again, and tonight we will be playing with the Bottled Happiness stamp set. It's been sitting on my shelf since I purchased it, and I have yet to use it. So tonight we pulled it out for tonight's projects, and we're also going to use the punch. But believe it or not, we're not using the punch for the outside of the cards. So we have this card here that we just stamped. Hey, Do. Hey, Margaret. The front of our basic white layer, and then popped up a fussy cut jar or bottle with a embossed label. And then on the second card, I wanted to show you that you could also use just the flowers without the bottles. Hello, hello. For the front of our card. And then this is where I used the bottle punch. I used a layer of the Highland Heather, and I don't know why that's doing that again. And I actually punched the bottle out of the white layer and then added the label to the bottle within the punch. Hello, is that Shaz? Welcome. And then for the inside of this card, I just again stamped the flowers that are on the front of the card. Now for the 3D item, I decided to try a different technique using our liquid glue and the ink refills to paint a clear bottle so you could add a message in the bottle and then a little holder for it so you could give it away. Hi, Karen. Hi, Elizabeth. How is everybody? Well, you guys are going to hate hearing my stories every week. But Bill came through the procedure on Monday fabulously. He was so excited that he woke up. And it was a late procedure. We had to be there at 3:15. He didn't get in until I think it was almost 9 o'clock. And we got home at 11 on Monday night. So it was a long, late night. And he felt good. He had a rough night. He wasn't feeling all that great Tuesday morning, but by Tuesday evening, he was feeling really good. So he was really excited. Wednesday morning, he woke up and felt wonderful. He was pain-free, feeling great. He was so excited that now, he can start doing things. And I ended up having to call an ambulance at about 9 o'clock. He went into a vertigo attack and then started with chest pains. So he's in the hospital. They're not really too sure what is happening. We know the vertigo. He had an attack of vertigo about 6 years ago that was really bad. This time, hey Betty, hi Kathy. This time, his vertigo, he felt like he was falling backwards and he got really, really sick. So they brought him in. They checked, they did an MRI to make sure he did not have a stroke, and he did not. Today they did a stress test because his troponin levels, that measures the proteins in your blood after like a heart attack, are through the roof. So we're not really sure why. He most probably had a heart attack. So that's where he is tonight. So just keep him in your thoughts still, because each day is just something new. Yep, not good news at all. Yep, I hope they get him fixed too. I mean, they have him on medication now for we'll add to the long list for the vertigo. So hopefully that will help. It's just his heart. They couldn't do a catheterization because they thought it was too risky. He hasn't been taking his blood thinners. He's on 2, and he had to stop them for the procedure on Monday. They did put him on a heparin drip, thinking that they would do the catheterization, but he was started to urinate pure blood. So they had to take him off the heparin, not do the catheterization, and did the stress test instead. So we're waiting on the results to the stress test. So we'll see what happens. So that is my story for tonight. And I'm sorry, one of these days I'm going to get on here and I'm going to tell you that something fabulous is happening. But, oh well, that's the way it goes, I guess. His heart is just weak. That's really what it is. And it just I think Monday just took a toll. So let's get started with our cards. Now, tonight I'm going to do something different. I know I haven't been doing it. Yeah, it's just crazy. Thankfully, I got my cards done yesterday morning before I got them done yesterday morning before I had to call the ambulance. And yes, Betty, I am still doing my live because this is what keeps my sanity. That's really why I do it. Okay, so let's start with this card. And we are using a nice deep color tonight. And this is the Blackberry Bliss. So bear with me if I make a blunder tonight. And it is 8.5 by 5.5, and I scored it at 4.25. And before I get going, I got this beautiful card from Margaret. Margaret, thank you so much. I love this fence, and I wish I knew where you got it from because I love it. And all your thoughts and prayers and everything are so much appreciated. They really, truly are. Just made my day. All right. So believe it or not, with this Blackberry Bliss, I decided to add Highland Heather. I don't know if it goes together, but it looks fairly neat, I think. So we're going to put a layer of Highland Heather 5.25 by 4, and then we're going to use some basic white, and this is 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. And this is the layer we're going to stamp on. So let me just grab a scrap of paper, because when you see my foam pad, I never changed it from the other day. So let's just lay that down. So we're going to go this way. I'm going to turn the whole thing so I make sure I don't go off the side. And I am going to first stamp my flowers just to get an idea of my placement of my bottles. Okay, so here's our flower stamp. And I'm just going to give it a little bit of a scrub because I used it with the Blackberry Bliss, and my Blackberry Bliss needs to be replaced. But my flowers on here are Highland Heather. So let's get our Highland Heather open. And we are going to stamp this so these little flowery, feathery type flowers are on the top. Okay, so we're just going to ink this up, and you want to ink it up really good. And we're going to set this right to the right hand side of this layer and give it a good stamp. Okay, and I got some right down there. How the heck did that get down there, I wonder? We'll cover it. Well, that'll cover up. Now for the leaves, I'm using, let me see where it is, Pear Pizzazz. Now before we stamp this, the best way to line this up with this stamp, so all your leaves and everything in the right position, I took these tiny little flowers here. These are the centers of these bigger flowers. If you can get these lined up on these flowers, then you'll have a great stamp, okay? Hey, Liara. Oh, okay, Margaret. Yeah, I love that fence. It's beautiful. Okay, so we got our Pear Pizzazz. I'm just going to move that out of the way so I don't get my hands in it. And I am going to look at those little flowers and line them up in the Highland Heather. And you just have to maneuver it and make sure they're in there right. And then give it a good stamp. So you'll see that all these little tiny flowers are in the center of the Highland Heather. Okay, so that's the easiest way I found to get these to stamp correctly. Now we're going to grab this smaller bottle. I'm going to make sure there's nothing on it. And to do a little bit of variation in color, I decided on Flirty Flamingo. So we're going to ink up this bottle. And again, it's got a lot of space on it. So you want to make sure that it is fully covered. And we want to make sure it is straight. And I'm going to put the neck of the bottle right here in between all these flowers. And then just give it a good stamp. Okay. So now that we have that stamped, I am going to pull out my Blackberry Bliss and the large bottle. And I'm going to clean this off so we get a nice clean stamp. All right, that looks better. It is stained, but stained is okay. So let's just get this open, and I am going to, see, I told you I need a new pad. The darker colors, sometimes you do have problems with them. And this one, I'm just going to use the spoon and just move all this ink around so I get a good stamp. I don't have, let me grab a wipe here. So I hope everybody else is doing good. I don't know how your weather is. It's a little cooler here tonight. I didn't turn the air conditioner off. I'm just afraid that it's going to start getting warm again. Okay, so now that we have this stamped right here, we're going to drop down the bigger bottle. Okay, but we want to leave room for this little greenery, or actually it's brown, but for this stem of floral, okay? So let's just ink up. That looks good. We're going to drop it down a little. I want to make sure it's on here straight. And we'll put it right about there. And give it a good stamp. Okay, that looks okay. Now the bottle right here, you'll see that it didn't pick up, the ink didn't really set really well there. And I don't have, do I have it? No, I have the Blackberry Bliss in the blends. So I'm just going to leave that right now. Okay. And then I'm going to grab some crumb cake and pull that out. And I'm also going to grab, just give me 1 second. I'm going to grab a Post-it note. And I'll show you why. Let's pull this stamp out. It has a very long stem, and I don't want this stem to interfere with my bottle. So I'm just going to take my Post-it note, and I'm going to line it up right at the rim of the top of this bottle. You can see through it, so you'll know where you have to stamp. We're just going to ink this up. And we want to line that stem up right in the neck of that bottle. And we'll just give it a stamp. So then when we pull our Post-it note off, it looks like it is coming out the neck of that bottle. Okay. So now let's just put that aside for a second. And we are going to grab, let's see. Let's see what I did with it. Here it is right here. Just a scrap piece of paper. And we're going to pull in our bottle again. And we're going to pull in, oh, is it chilly in Ohio? Chilly in New York City. 64 in Iowa. 95 in Georgia today. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's cool tonight. I have to say I did have a sweatshirt on. I did take it off. Okay, so we're going to take the little bottle and we're just going to give it a good stamp in Highland Heather. And then once that dries, you're going to fussy cut it out. And that's what I did here. Because this is the bottle we're going to pop up on the front of the card. So let's just put that aside a second. And then there is a label for these bottles. And we're going to stamp that label in the Blackberry Bliss. Okay. Again, you want to make sure that ink is covering your whole stamp. Okay, so it's very dark. It does dry lighter, okay? It looks almost black there. But when it dries, I did already fussy cut it, so you wouldn't have to watch me fussy cut. It does dry just a tad lighter, okay? So now that we have our label, I think, what did I put on there? Sending cheer. It's a little tiny stamp. Let's grab our Versamark. And I'm going to take my Versamark off the screen because it is a disgusting mess. And we are going to emboss this. I am going to use my embossing buddy and just give it a little pat. I'm using white embossing powder. And I'm also going to grab, where this is so tiny, my little tool so I'll be able to hold it and not burn my fingers. So let's get our sending cheer and really get some Versamark on there and stamp this on this tag. Let's add our embossing powder. And see if I can't pick it up. Okay, so there it is. Let's turn on this 98 in Texas. Oh my goodness, Elizabeth. Hey, Anita. Hey, Kathy. Hi, Kathleen. All right, so we're going to heat this up. You want to just make sure that the embossing powder melts. You don't want to do it too long because it will burn. The white does burn. Ask me how I know. I have burnt it. Okay, so before we do anything, let's get our card base. And again, normal 8.5 by 5.5. Scored at 4 1/4. 4 1/4 by 4 for the Highland Heather layer. And I am just going to glue this down. Get it on here, centered, and that looks pretty good. Okay, now let's pull in our stamped layer. Now before I put my little bottle on or pop my bottle on, we're going to add the layer. But before that, I'm going to grab my light gray granite. Looking at this layer now, it looks like the bottles are floating in the air. And if you notice on this one, I added a shadow underneath the bottles to ground them. So it looks like they're actually sitting on something and casting a shadow. So that's what I did. And I'm going to use the brush, and I'm going to start out on the left-hand side, and I am going to add a shadow. I'm going to go beyond it a little bit, and I just want it to get a little heavier on this side. And then we're going to do the same thing to this bottle. I'm just going to lay down that shadow. And I just want it to be a little thicker on that side. It just grounds them a little bit, like I said, so it doesn't look like they're flying up in the air. So let's pull in our bottle. We're going to grab our little label. We're just going to add some glue. And you see I did stamp it on a piece that I had already stamped. And make sure that's on there straight. And then we're just going to grab a piece of twine. Grab my scissors. And I'm just going to wrap this around the neck of this bottle and tie it in a bow. Instead of adding a ribbon, I figured I would add a piece of twine. Oops. I'm going to pick it up. Makes it a little bit easier for me instead of trying to do it right on the table. I know I cut too much, but that's okay. All right, so now that it's tied, if you want your little loops to be even, if you put your finger on that knot and pull the strings, and we want this string to come down. But if you pull on these strings, your loops will be nice and flat. They'll lay flat just by holding on to that knot and pulling it. If it looks like your twine is a little bit too loose, the best thing to do is grab a glue dot and put it right in the back and just pull your strings down right to that glue dot. And it'll just tighten it up on the front. And you'll never know that you had to do that, okay? All right, let's grab some dimensionals. We'll put some dimensionals on here. And we're going to pop this up right on the front of the card. Okay. Let's pull our layer in. And we just want to get this so it's sitting in front of these two bottles, a little bit in the center. And we're going to drop it down right about there. Want to make sure that it is straight. And that looks pretty good. So now that this is here, I'm going to grab that marker again. And very carefully, I am going to lay down a shadow. We can't forget that bottle. So then it just looks like, and you can't see it too well with the light, but they're there. Okay. Now we can take this layer and add it to the front of our card. I'm not going to use glue because I do not want it to show through my layer. So we're just going to add some seal. My little bow. Just get this so it's, there it is. Now I got it on my finger. And let's just lay this down on the front of the card. Just like that. We're going to grab some rhinestones. And we're just going to randomly put a few rhinestones on the front of this card. We'll put one here. I'm going to put one here. And then we're going to add one right here to the top. And then the front of our card is finished. Hey, Tracy. Beautiful fall day today. Isn't today the first day of fall? I forgot all about it. All right. So now for the inside, like I said, just quick and easy. We're going to stamp the same flowers. So I have a Highland Heather layer, 5 1/4 by 4. And then a basic white layer, 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. And we're going to pull our pad back in, grab our flowers and our Highland Heather, and we're going to ink it up. I'm not going to stamp the whole flower. We're going to go about halfway. And let's see which way. We'll do it like this. And just give that a stamp. Close that up. Let's grab some pear pizzazz. And we're going to do our flowers. Now you have to remember, I tilted it. So now we're going to have to fit these flowers. Move it around till I get the right layout. And that looks about right. Give it a stamp. And then we have our flowers on the inside of our card. We'll grab this layer. Again, I don't want to use glue, so we'll use the seal. And I always pull it up wrong, of course. There we go. And layer this together. Pull in our card. Wrong one. And now I can glue it because the Highland Heather is behind it. And just lay it on the inside of our card. And there is our first card. The light is so bright tonight for some reason. Thanks, Kathleen. All right, so there's card number 1. Card number 2 we have right here. And we are going to, again, use a layer of the Blackberry Bliss, 8.5 by 5.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4. This time, we're going to go landscape. We are going to put an additional layer of the Blackberry Bliss, and this is 5 1/8 by 4 1/8. And then we're going to add our Highland Heather. Let's see. Wrong one. Oops, that one's right. It's the wrong Highland Heather. There we go. The Highland Heather is 5 1/4 by 4. So we can get these layers right on the top of our card. So we'll be ready to add our layer. I wasn't sure how Highland Heather and Blackberry Bliss were going to go together, but I think I kind of like it. Because there is, when you look at the Blackberry Bliss, you can see some purple in it. Like our early espresso has pink in it. Thanks. Thank you, Betty. Thanks, Margaret. Thanks, everybody. All right, so now that's layered together. So now we're going to grab our, and I want to make sure I have the correct layer. And I do. Let me just make sure. Yep. Okay. So now I have my basic white layer. And this measures 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And we're going to put it landscape. Let's just turn this over so it's clean. And I'm just going to quick clean this off so we have a nice clean flower stamp, because we're going to stamp in the Blackberry Bliss this time. You can see here's the Blackberry Bliss and here's the Highland Heather. What a difference, huh? It changes the green. It changes the whole color. So we're going to use the Blackberry Bliss this time. And where I think this is the top of the flowers, we're going to stamp it on the front so it's this way. That's the way we're going to stamp it, okay? So let's grab our Blackberry Bliss, and I'm actually going to turn this so I have it in the right direction. I don't mess it up. And I just want to be, let's see, I know this is in equals. I'm off just a bit. It's about a 1/2 inch. This is a little short of a 1/2 inch. So we're going to stamp this right about here. Give it a good stamp. And I must have don't know why I keep getting these little dots. I'm going to clean this off again. I know I have ink on my finger. It's almost like I have a piece of hair stuck. All right, let's try again. So we're going to ink it up again, and I'm going to line this up. And do you see where this flower comes out? I'm going to fit it in right about here, even though I have these two spots. And it should be almost equal side to side. Okay. And lift it up. It looks crazy, just that color, doesn't it? Now we can pull in our pear pizzazz. Okay. Pear pizzazz. And then our leaves. So again, we want to line those center flowers. So we're just gonna get over top of it so I can see all those centers, and then give it a good stamp. Turn it around. We're going to do the same thing again. So we want to line those centers up. And you do have to just wiggle it a little, just so you can get them in there. All right. Now, again, it will lighten as it dries. I just want to wipe my fingers. I have so much ink on my hands right now. Messy, messy. All right. So we did, I don't know, I guess I did tell you we did get to the beach. Oh my gosh, it was gorgeous. I could really be a beach bum again. I used to be. Okay, so now that I have my flowers done, give me 1 second. I'm going to run it through the cut and emboss machine with, what is the name of this? I think it's retired. This embossing folder. I forgot to check. If anybody remembers the name of this embossing folder, just put it in the comments, please. Because I forgot to check. I just don't even remember what it's called. All right. So now I ran it through really quickly. And here is our layer. Now, before I lay this down, again, I'm using a retired ribbon. I have some of this Highland Heather striped ribbon left. And I know I shouldn't be using it, but it's been in my stash, and have been trying to clean my room a little bit. I think it's a never-ending job. So, you know me, I don't like to wrap and tie a bow, so I cheat. And I add some glue dots to the end. And then we're just going to line this up at the bottom of this card. And then wrap it around the back. Just like that. So now we have, your daughter likes presents. I know she does. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I can always send you another pack, right, Tim? Okay, I know I usually don't put white glue on white, but where this is embossed, it won't show through. and it won't ruin the embossing by pressing on it. Just going to glue this right to the front of the card. Now I can grab the ribbon and tie a bow. Yeah, this was the Gorgeous Grape and Highland Heather striped ribbon. And I just loved it. It makes such a nice bow. Okay. Let's just get our little tails together. Give them a little trim. We're just going to set that aside for 1 second. I took the Lovely and Lasting punch, you know, my favorite, and punched a Highland Heather frame. And we're just going to take this and cut it completely in half. So now we have the backing to our sentiment. Then we're going to grab a scrap piece of paper and our Sending a Little Message and our Highland Heather stamp set. Now, to be on the safe side, I like to do my sentiment, and I might not be over far enough. Let me just grab this punch. There it is. I might not have gone over far enough. Nope, I didn't. Can you believe it? Let me just cut another piece. It's just too close to the edge, so we'll get another piece. And we'll stamp it again. Let's do it on this side. Let's not do it again. So we have our little sentiment. Now I can grab my punch and see if it's going to be. And now it's perfect. And this time I'm going to move the sentiment up just a little, and I'm going to put the bow, because I'm putting the bow at the bottom. So just punch that out. Now that we have our sentiment, we can grab our Highland Heather, and we're just going to add some glue. Oops. And I just want to add a little bit of a backing color to the sentiment. Get it up. And then here. So it just backs it up. Just, hey, Deborah. Minnesota. Okay, so let's pop this up. We're going to pop it up on the front of the card. And let's see, here it is. Pokey tool. Since I've been pulling them off with this little pokey tool, and you can use the pick-a tool too, I haven't been finding them all over the house like I usually do. All right, we're going to put this right here in the center of the card. And I'm putting it over the ribbon so I can mock it looking like I wrapped it and tied a ribbon at the same time. So we're just going to add our bow, give it a little puff, and let's grab our little rhinestones again, and we're just going to add a few to the front of the card. I think I added 3. We'll put one there, we'll put one there, and we'll add one right over here. So there is the front of our second card. Now for the inside. We have our Highland Heather, and we have to remember, and this is what, 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, and we're going to do it in the landscape, and this should be 5 1/4 by 4, and it is. Okay, so landscape, this has to be landscape also. All I'm going to do is take my punch, and I want to make sure that I get it in here and it is straight. And I'm just going to move it up. I'm going to just make sure that it is in here as straight as possible. Just eyeballing it a little bit. And let's give it a punch. Not bad. Okay, so now we have our bottle punched for our layer. Just like that. I am actually going to, let's just make sure, what did I do in here? I am going to actually lay this down, and I'm not going to adhere it yet. I'm just going to get it so it is laid down the way I want it. And that looks good. We're going to pull in our label stamp again, and I'm just going to clean this off a little bit. And we're going to stamp the label. So we're going to grab our Blackberry Bliss. Since the inside is Highland Heather, just going to make sure this is on here straight. And that looks pretty good, I think. And we're going to ink up our label and very carefully stamp our bottle. Okay, now we can take that off so we don't ruin it. Just going to let this dry for a second because we want to, let's see, here it is. And I'm going to put wine knot in here. So I'm just going to grab my little embossing buddy, give that a little pat, and grab some Versamark right here, off camera so you don't see the messy, and my white embossing powder. So you want to make sure that you get a nice amount of Versamark. We'll get that in there as straight as we can. And let's add our embossing powder. I have a brand new Versamark and I haven't even opened it. I still use the same crappy one. All right. So now it is embossed. Let me heat it up. Ah, thank you. All right. There we go. So now we have our label for our bottle. Now this one is a bit difficult to get on because you know I don't like using glue on my white. So I am going to add my seal. I'm going to put it here and I'm going to put it over here. Let me come over here so I can catch it. Okay. But then I am going to grab some glue, and on these thinner areas, I'm just going to add a bit of glue, if it'll come out, to the edge, just so it does stay down. Okay. Now, when we lay this layer down, it should fit right over that label. Just like that. So we can grab our card, add our glue, and lay this in the center. I got to be careful because my hands are so full of ink right now. All right. So there is our second card. I'm going to be careful because, like I said, I have more ink on my hands. All right, now the third project. I have these cute little bottles. I think I got them from the dollar store, little mini glass containers. And I thought, what a great idea if we would grab a piece of small paper. We're going to use this because it's about the same colors. You could write a note, and I'm just going to curl this a little. So you'd write your note. You can roll this up. And let's grab a piece of twine. Whoops. Don't want it to go rolling away. And let's just wrap our little message in some twine. A little message in a bottle. I gotta hold it on my lap again. Sorry about that. It's just so much easier when it's not flipping and flopping. All right, so here's our little message. Just trim that up. All right. And we have our bottle. Before we do anything, though, we need oh, here we go. We'll use this one right here. We need to stamp our designer series paper. I actually created it with these same flowers. So all I'm going to do is ink up and stamp our flower. Just like that. Close that up. Grab our leaves. Grab our pear pizzazz. And then again, give it a stamp. Okay, now that that is done, I can pull in my pieces. And the reason I stamped that first, I'm grabbing all these tiny little pieces here. I have them in a little basket. I have one piece, and this is 7/8 of an inch wide. And then we have our little squares for the sides and the front. They're 7/8 by 7/8. Now what I wanted to do is when I cut the paper for this, I wanted this piece and this piece to match. So what I did I know the bottom piece has to be 7/8 of an inch. So I'm just going to, let me just grab a pencil. Do I have a pencil here? Yep. Just going to make a mark right about here and right about here. That's about where 7/8 would be. Then I turned it this way, and I wanted to see where the center of this flower was. 2.5, so it would be about 1.25. Here's the center, and I want to go 7/8. I need 7/8 of an inch. So half of 7/8 is what? Right about here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's right about here. So I'll have to cut here and here. How crazy, right? That's the way I think sometimes. So I'm just going to grab my little cutter, and we're going to just cut this a little bit. I'm going to cut it at that mark I made at the bottom. And then I want to cut it, where's my inch? At 7/8 of an inch. That's about where my mark was. Now that I have that little piece for the bottom, I do want to still keep it together. And so here it, whoops. So here's my right hand piece. I do have to trim it. And I'm going to turn this around. Here's the center piece, and I do have to trim that down. Here's the piece for the middle. And here's the piece for the other side. Okay. So here's all my pieces. We're going to put those aside. I grabbed a lid to a plastic container, and I'm going to grab the liquid glue, and I am just going to load up some of the liquid glue. I do not have any Blackberry Bliss refill, and I don't have any Highland Heather, believe it or not. So I decided to grab, oh, I do have Highland Heather. Okay, I didn't have Blackberry Bliss. So I'm going to grab my Highland Heather, and I am going to put 3 dots, 3 or 4 drops on here. And I'm going to grab my spoon, and I'm just going to mix this together. You can use food coloring. It doesn't have to be the ink refills. You can use food coloring. I just don't have food coloring, but I do have the refills. And then you want to grab a nice soft paintbrush. I'm just going to clean this off really quick. So we have glue and the refill. And I'm just going to grab the bottle, and you're going to just paint this bottle. Oops. I'm sure they're taking care of his meds tonight. And paint our bottle. Oops, there's a piece of hair. My paintbrush is shedding. So you don't want to put it on too thick, And you don't really want to work it too much because you will get some streaks. Now it looks streaky right now, but as it dries, it will dry really nice. I'm just going to turn this a little bit. And it does take a little while, depending on how thick you put the glue. It will take a little bit of time to dry. Okay, so now the bottle is all coated. I'm just going to throw away that top. And you just want to put it aside so it dries. And when it dries, you'll get this look. Believe it, it's see-through and it is a little bit cloudy. So it changes the glass, okay? So now let's stick our little message in a bottle in there. And just so it didn't look so plain and just the colors, I added a little bow. So let's grab our box and put it together. We have a piece of Blackberry Bliss that is 5 by 6 inches. You're going to score it with the 5-inch side at the top. Let's see, at 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then you're going to turn it and you're going to score it at 1 and 2. So now we can fold and burnish. Now the little walls on this piece, so it would be a little stronger, they're doubled. That's why we have so many pieces here. This right here, let me just, yep. This right here, is it, did I do that right? 1, 2, I just want to make sure I did this right. Nope, I didn't. It's got to be scored one more time. Sorry about that. So this side has to be scored at 1, 2, and 3 inches also. I forgot about the double wall on the front of this piece. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So looking at this, and I'm going to get my pencil. This is one of the walls to the front, this piece here. This is one of the walls to the front, and this is the bottom. Right here is the bottom. This is the back piece, so we want this piece. We're going to keep this piece and this piece. I am actually going to cut these out. So let's grab our scissors and let's do that right now. So we're going to cut out these rectangles. And I like to cut it so I am cutting out the score bump. And then we're going to do the same thing on this side. Okay. Now, so we know this is the front and this is the bottom. We now need to create our sides. So we're going to use this one and this one, this one, and this one. Plus, we need a tab. So we're going to use these two as our tabs. So just like a box, we're going to cut out these outside boxes. And I'm not going to worry too much about the score lines right now because we do have to trim. But I just want to show you how we're going to cut this out. So we're cutting these outside boxes off. Just like that. Okay? So this is a wall and this is a wall. So that means we need to cut this piece right here. And we need to cut it right here. Now I want to make sure that I cut that bump out. And I want to cut this bump out. Because when you start folding things over, it gets really thick. And where we're going to fold this one in, we're going to tab it just like a tab. This is actually what's going to hold our box together. So we're going to angle the sides and we're going to actually cut off about a 1/2 inch so it's not so bulky. This is a wall, so we're going to trim this up and then we're going to do this side the same as this side. So let's cut out this score bump. We're going to angle this. We're going to cut this here. We're going to angle these two sides. And then we're going to cut off about a 1/2 inch. So let's get rid of this stuff. And now we can get ready to assemble. We don't need these pieces, but I wanted to make a little side shelf type thing here. So we're going to start at this corner. Let's cut it. Let's see. I want to just see. We're going to put this on the inside. So we're going to just cut this from this corner right down to the other corner. We may need to trim it, but just so we can get our box together, we're just going to angle cut this just like that. Now we can assemble our box. These tabs we're going to put on the outside of our box. So if you can't put them on the inside because then we can't fold this in. So let's start over here. We're going to add some glue to the tabs we created. You can use seal. It'll be easier probably with seal because the glue takes a couple minutes to dry. But we're just going to fold these in. Make sure our corners are even. And straight. I'm just going to hold it for a second here so it dries. Okay. Oops. Now let's take our little tabs or the second layer of our sides and we're actually going to glue these down. We're going to pull the back piece up last. So these will hold those side tabs. Oops. Like that. And then this will just strengthen that front. And since it's going to take a couple minutes to dry, I'm just going to go in here with my bone folder and just make sure that's down really well. All right, now if we pull this up, we're going to attach these pieces to the sides. But before I do that, I'm just going to give it another good fold so it's squared off. Let's trim that here a little bit. It's not a straight cut. All right. So let's just add some glue. And we'll add some glue here. Pull it up. And we want to make sure that it is even with the bottom, so it's nice and square. I'm just going to hold it for a second so it dries. All right, so here's our little box. Let's pull in our pieces. These are 7/8 by 7/8. And these have to be 3/4 by 3/4. So we're going to trim this down. I'm going to just give it a little snip. That should be perfect. Yep. Then we're going to trim this down to 3/4. And they are teeny tiny pieces, so it just makes it a little bit of a pain. This is the right hand side of the box. Then we got to grab our center. And we got to take off a little tiny bit here. And a little tiny bit here. And I just want to make sure this goes this way. So let's grab our glue. We're going to glue this like that. And then one more piece. And this one will go here. So I'm just cutting off just about 1/8 of an inch. And then we're going to glue this one down. Okay, so here's our center. We can add our glue, add this to the front. This is our left side, or to my left side. And that'll cover up the side that we glued. And this is my right side. And we're going to just add that right there. Make sure they're straight. Okay, now we have our center one. I think I still need to trim this off about 1/8 of an inch. So let me just get this in here. Make sure I did it. Yep. Add a little bit of glue. Hopefully we won't see through. And we're just going to add this to the top. Okay. Oops. And then insert this right into the center. So now the flowers actually match and wrap around. And then you can add your little bottle. I won't touch the other one because it's still wet. And then we have our finished cards. So if you order tonight using that host code, I will send you these make and takes this week. Okay? Thank you, thank you. Yeah, it did take some time. That's for sure. But it is so cute. It's just something different. Hey, Dawn. I didn't see you come in, honey. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's really cute. So like I said, if you place an order tonight, any amount, I will send you these make and takes in the mail. Now I will have the PDF for these posted tomorrow, but I'm not sure exactly what time. My laptop, I tried to hook up to the Wi-Fi at the hospital today, and I have so much security on my laptop that it wouldn't allow me to hook up because it's unsecured. So I will try to get it done first thing in the morning. I'm not going to promise though, but I will promise that it will be posted tomorrow. So I'll let you know when it's available. Thanks for joining me. Keep Bill in your thoughts as he undergoes probably more tests tomorrow. And I'll hopefully be back on Saturday. So have a great night. Really appreciate all the thoughts and prayers, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.